Alrighty, I think that we can get started. I'm going to bring Dawn on the stage and I'm going to introduce her. This is Dawn Monroe. She is a Microsoft Office Specialist Master. And I'll tell you what, she's not kidding. She's fantastic at this. Good afternoon, Dawn. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good to be with you again, Carl.
Oh, we're always happy to have you here, Dawn. So everybody, we are going to get started. This presentation is recorded. If you missed it, we are going to be getting out a copy of it to you after the fact, and we will be putting it up on YouTube as well. So get ready. Dawn, I'm going to hand this over to you, and I will be here if you need anything, and we can get started.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Hello out there. I see so many familiar names. Hi, I see you. We are going to get our sites set on SharePoint today. Welcome back if you've been with us and with Integris before. I'm so glad to kick this off with you. I bet a lot of you can relate to the scenario of having this 365, the Microsoft, the SharePoint put on your computer, and then you didn't know what to do with it. Can you relate to that? Did that happen to you? I know it's happened to a lot of people. So many folks have said to me, Dawn, I got this software. I'm not sure what we're doing. The Teams, the 365, the SharePoint. So let's talk about all of that. Today, what we're going to focus on is Microsoft SharePoint. This is what's the whole operating system behind all of the Microsoft suite, the whole 365 suite. It's the part that is behind your Teams. And so a lot of things are happening within the SharePoint world. And I kind of want to demystify that today. I want to show you how you can start to do things really productive with it. Like maybe you need a site for your team or a site for your department to broadcast things out. Maybe you're struggling to manage files and you want to figure out what's the best way to set that up. Maybe you need to be creating lists that are shareable and several of you can work on a list together. Okay, and how does this all tie into our other apps? Okay, somebody says they can't hear me, but I know others can hear me, so I think that part's on you. I'll let you figure that one out. Okay, so that's our roadmap for today. Welcome, and let's really get into it. So SharePoint is a software space. It's cloud-based where we can get on the internet and keep informed. We can inform others or we can get information ourselves. And what's really nice about it is an organization can use it, and you as a user in this software, you can start building things. You can build pages and intranet sites that are usable in your company, and you don't have to know programming code. Okay, this is really made functional for everyone to use. So this is the kind of thing that we can do with it. You have to have a 365 account, a work or school account, a 365, Microsoft 365 subscription account. Now, in the old days, you'd buy your Microsoft software, you'd get the box, you'd load it up, and it stayed that way for years until you got the new upgrade, right? Some of you have heard me say that before. With the 365 account, it's a subscription. New things are happening all the time. It's based in the cloud, so it is rolling out new things that you can do all the time. So you got to keep your eye on it. But these are the kind of web solutions that you can do with Microsoft SharePoint. You can make lists. You can make libraries of files. You can organize and tag files. You can do that instant messaging. You're doing it in Teams, I bet. Version management. You send a file to somebody, they mess it up. In the cloud environment, thankfully, we can go and back up to a version from a couple of days ago if someone messes something up. But that only happens in these cloud-based areas. So what's cloud-based? I guess we better talk about that. That's your OneDrive where you store stuff. That could be a Teams location. That could be a SharePoint library. Those are all cloud-based storage places. So all kinds of things to do. We'll scratch the surface on it really, because in your organization, I don't know how you need to use it. There's going to be so many ideas that come from this, and I hope you'll share ways that you're using it, because others I know can benefit from your great experience. Okay, so what is really the role? Well, SharePoint is behind the scenes of your 365. It's helping tie all those apps together, gives you integration possibilities. It's what's making it all work. Yay. Okay, so we want it to work, don't we, friends? Once we get going on these things, it's frustrating if we don't know what to do. Okay, so some of the content ideas I have for you. Who's doing some of these? I want you to shout out if you are using already SharePoint libraries with groups of files. Maybe somebody set up a site that is a training site that you have different videos and materials stored on. Maybe someone's made a site in HR where all the benefit forms live. Maybe there's a marketing site where you go to get templates for your different things. You can get maybe the color guide, the brand kit for your organization. I bet marketing could use a SharePoint site. So many things. Oh, okay. I glanced over and Emma set up a SharePoint site for my trainings. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Love you, Emma. Okay, wonderful. So watch that. We're getting a repository for contracts, documents and reference materials, university-wide plan for organizing, libraries, HR, marketing, finance admin, compliance, training. Okay, so let those ideas spark for you while we're talking through this. As we make these different sites, I want you to realize that we are very cautious about security these days, aren't we? I know I'm trying to be. And you'll be setting these sites up and you get to decide who works on them and who can view them and stuff like that. So be thoughtful about this as you're setting it up. Who's working on it? Maybe you're not doing it alone. So maybe you have a few people that have all permissions that are owners. And then there's people that are members of a site where they can come in and interact with it. And then visitors maybe can just come in and simply view. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's something called the principle of least privilege. And with that principle, you want to give people just enough so that they can get their job done. You don't want to give too many permissions. Can you relate to this? You don't want to overshare, give someone permission, and then they can mess something up for you. Yes. So stop the madness, right? Don't let people mess with my stuff. So just thinking about that, let's go ahead and take a look. What does SharePoint look like and how do you even get there? So first of all, I said you need a 365 account. So that means you're logging into the internet, you're signed in as you on your work or school account. And when you're in there, you'll see that little app launcher at the top left corner. On the screen capture I have here, it's right under the word access. There's a little waffle, the app launcher, and right by the word SharePoint. That is where you go to get to SharePoint. Let me bring over a real screen so you can see it. Let me bring it up here. I've got it. There we go. And here I've got the app launcher. So I've logged into my account. It knows it's me. I can click on that app launcher and I can see all the different apps that I have access to. And if you have access to SharePoint, you'll see it in this area. And you can click it and get to that home page like I'm looking at now. Okay, make sense? Good. Let's keep rolling on that. So jumping back over so I don't forget to tell you things. So this is what it looks like on the home page. So you've got navigation icons on the left edge. You've got some kind of linked areas there, also in a column. And then you can start creating new things with the buttons in the main work area here, and you can search. Looking a little closer at this app bar, this is what you see. So if you want to return to the home page of the SharePoint area, you would click on the little house. You want to see all your sites, you'll click on that globe. You might be getting news because the different sites can post news articles. And if you're following sites, you can see basically all the kind of news coming in, kind of like a news feed from all your different sites coming into SharePoint as well. You'll have a place for files, a place for lists, and you've got a create button there. At the top, you can create new sites and create those news posts. Friends, as I get going, let me just remind you, if you have a question while I'm talking about this, I want to cover all my content. So be sure and put it in the chat and I will follow up as best I can. Now you'll see different sites and they look like these little boxes, kind of a little, it'll be a little grid of all these different sites that you can jump to. And you'll see an icon box for it. You'll see a little star. I'll point out that if you would like to follow a site, you can click that star. You don't have to follow every single one your membership on, but your important ones. So as we start building in here, we will create the site. You're going to get two different kinds of choices, a team site and a communication site. And it gives you a layout a lot like building a web page, because you are building a web page. It has all the tools you'll need where you can just click and insert things without having to know any code. And that's the part I love. I'm no software engineer. I don't know the code. But thankfully, they've set this program up so I can just click or drag in or insert, and it makes it so nice for someone like me that is not code savvy. Then you'll set up what permissions you want on that site, and you'll start building all those components until you are ready to broadcast or publish it out. And it's not too tough to get back in and make a few changes and then republish when you're ready. You can even draft it up and keep it as a draft until you're ready for publishing. Who's actually made sites before? Have a few of you built a site or two? I know a few of you have, because we're talking about what you've done. Oh, Cheryl, I love how you did that. Put question first, and if you have a specific question, because we got tons of chat going on. Yeah, a few of you have started to build these sites. Did you think it was hard? Tell our friends out there, was it hard or easy for you? Okay. So with several experience, but I know we've got a lot on this call. So I'm guessing, yeah, not too hard. Teresa's saying not bad, easy. Karen, easy. Okay. Renee, I'm glad you asked the difference. I'm about to tell you. Yes, it is easier than the original, Chris. I've noticed that too. Way back, I was teaching years ago at an international training organization, and when I first got into that SharePoint, I thought, oh no, I'm in the wrong place. But it has gotten easier, so I'm really glad about that too. Okay, so let's talk about the types of sites that you have. You can build a team site or a communication site. Now, a team site is when you're going to want maybe some project collaboration. Maybe you want to keep up to date on team news. You may need a shared calendar, a shared email. Let's see what else. Let me look at my notes. Manage tasks together. That would be a place where you'd want a team SharePoint site. And you can connect it to Teams. Excellent. A communication site would be different. This is something where maybe I'm publishing it out to a pretty wide audience. So think about this like, you need to get the employee benefits materials accessible to everyone. That would be a good opportunity for a communication site. The team side, I'm thinking more like, let's get the marketing team together because we're working on our upcoming events. I know Carl's doing a lot of that. So it depends on what kind of site you need. If you have access today and your organization would let you, why don't you make one called Sample and Play? And then you'll easily know you made a sample and it's something that could be deleted later. In some organizations, you probably have to get permission to even get this far. Yeah. Anybody out there, tell us. In your organization, do you have to request to make a SharePoint site? Some organizations, you even have to request to make a team. Okay, so we'll have to dig into some of those questions. I think for the calendar, we're going to want a team site. I see those as I'm going, but I won't stop long. Yes, keep any of those coming. As you create that, you can then start adding the puzzle pieces behind the scenes to the site. So maybe you need the list that we were talking about, or building a document library, or maybe making a landing page kind of situation for an event or something special coming up. The space allows you to do 3D stuff with virtual reality. I admit I haven't made a space. I'm not much into the gaming, so that may not be one that I test. You also can do news posts, news links. You can add apps in here so that you are embedding things that you need. So many possibilities. Every one of you, if you created a sample today, we would all do something dynamic and different. And really, that is the beauty of these SharePoint sites. Completely customizable for what you and your team and your organization needs. Okay, so this is a screen capture showing a site. And this is what it looks like at the top. So we got a little square. It picks up initials there. But those are things we can customize and play with, right? We've got a home. We've got documents, pages, site contents, and a place to click edit. From your new, you can drop that open and get that list, document library, all those things you could start. You can jump inside and see the page details. Even, my friends, you can see the analytics. So you can go back and see how many visits is your SharePoint site getting. I know a lot of you need to keep track of things. How effective is something that you've built like this? So you could see how many visits your learning management system gets. Once you set it up, you can visit the analytics. Now notice over to the right, it shows following and site access. That's the members of who's on it. And I can see when I've saved last, I can share from here, edit. And then as I've worked on it, I can republish. I opened up the box there. The site access looks like what you see below, where you can pick. Remember, owners have full control. Site members have some control, and visitors get no control. So principle of least privilege for that. Okay. Teams and SharePoint are really working together. They kind of do different things. If you think about the team being the communication among the group, and then the SharePoint being basically the landing place for all the things, the files, the list, all the things land here. Okay, boy, we're going to have an active question session, aren't we? Boy, I hope I have the answers. Okay, so walking through each of those different things that you can add point by point, and then I'll walk through live. We'll set one up and you can see it in action. But let me go through the parts and pieces first. So when you want to add a document, you can actually, from that new, you can start documents from here. I thought this was interesting. Those of you that have come from maybe a Google Drive. Let me make a comparison. In a Google Drive, you can use the new button and you can go new doc, new sheet, new slide. It's set up in here so we can begin a file from within SharePoint. And you can customize this. See at the bottom of this screen capture, it says edit a new menu item, or add a template. So you can customize and put things on here so they're nice and handy. So let's say the marketing department has a Word template, a PowerPoint template, an Excel template, all those, they could add them into SharePoint. So people could find them. As you onboard new people, maybe things need to get set up. Okay. A document library will be a grouping together of files that you need to keep together. Here they show some samples. You can build with a template. Maybe you need a media library for recordings. Maybe you need an invoice repository. Maybe the learning management system that we talked about. So it just depends. You can make a group of files, which they call a document library. I hope I'm answering some of these as we go, but we'll go back and revisit them. Now, lists are pretty neat. You can, who remembers Access? Do I have any Access people out there? Did I just hit you with a blast from the past? I used to teach Access. I got my MOS in Access as well. Someone even asked me about it just a few days ago. Wow. I said, maybe we can use lists. Maybe lists would come in handy. Okay, a few of you are saying, okay, yeah, I'm brushing off the dust. I remember that. So you can create a list, which basically gives you a place where people can come and enter things in. And you can determine in your list what each field column is. Remember setting up like a text or a date or a number or a currency or all those things. You can determine the different fields you need on your list. And you remember now why I'm comparing it to Access, because I'm setting up with those different kind of field types. So what's an idea of a list? I wonder if who of you has it. Okay, Suzanne has PTSD from the mention of Access. I bet a lot of us do. So, okay, so with a list, that could be like a customer service log, IT questions log. What else? Somebody give me some of your ideas. Anybody think of some? You'll put them out there as they occur to you. There's a lot of things that you're keeping a list of. Would it be handy to have it in a shared? It would be similar to using Excel, but a different vibe in there. Invoice tracking. Yeah. Truckloads for trucking company with totals, case numbers and a filing date, vehicle usage, facilities punch lists, requests. Many ideas where you could set up a list. And here's some templates there. So issue tracker, employee onboarding, event itinerary, asset manager, recruitment. And I just did a screen capture of the first row. So that gives you some ideas. You could also upload, if you had something already started, you could upload from another source, from Excel, from a CSV. I'll do these live in a few minutes. Let's just walk through the pieces. You can create a page. A page might be something that's kind of independent from the rest of it. My brain thinks about event pages because I'm always doing events. So that makes sense to my brain. But I'm sure you're going to come up with some things that would make sense for you, or you just want to start with a single page. I was playing with this just earlier, and it invited me to make a profile page on myself. So maybe you want, maybe profiles on your folks. You could do something like that. Link it over to LinkedIn, even those kind of things. Now, once you start building the page, and if you've used any kind of web builder or any of the programs like you build emails, these kind of remind me of those things where you work in blocks. In this program, they call them sections. So you'll have sections that have components in it, like images and text, or how many columns in the section. It reminds me if you've used like MailChimp or Constant Contact or MailerLite, those kind of programs where you can work in blocks in a mass email. If you've used any web builders like I don't know, like Wix or WordPress, where you can put things in blocks and chunks. So they're called sections in here, and they've got templates for you to get started. It does look a little like some of those programs, doesn't it? Now, this is the one I said, I haven't tried the space. This is Create Space. This allows you to do some kind of funky, cool 3D kind of thing. So that's to be continued. You'll have to tell me if you jump in and you try that. It's web-based, immersive platform. You can do add a new dimension, it says, to your intranet with 2D and 3D. What I'm thinking about, some of you might have products that maybe you have some video components that you could maybe see around an object. I don't know. I'm just thinking out of the box. If anybody is using the space yet, I want you to shout out in our chat and talk about it. I'm curious. But it's got some templates. You could play with one and see what goes on in there. Now, a news post, if you have several SharePoint sites, and maybe you follow quite a few sites within your company, maybe you're following a training site and a HR site and the marketing site and the IT tech site, you're following all those. That's a lot to keep up with. So the different sites can have news posts that then you get a grouping of your news feed. So you'll see what's happening new. This will be on your home tab of the SharePoint site. So you can see what's going on and maybe click on those individual items to see what's going on, what's happening there. And you'll find that there's little bookmark areas. I'll show you live where the little bookmark is on the news post, because maybe you can't see it right away, but you don't want to forget it. You can also just grab a link and make a news post using a link and then alert people. So maybe you made a new web page that you want to share out to the rest of the group. Or maybe there was something in the news about your company and you want to share the link from the newspaper article back into your SharePoint site. Lots of things like that you can use this for. Okay. Oh, I can't wait to get talking with you all. There's so much happening in that chat. Now, if you remember, so if SharePoint's the big umbrella managing the whole 365 system, doesn't it make sense that it's going to integrate different apps that will do different things within this environment? And admittedly, I've not tried a bunch of these things. It's connected with all kinds of apps. If any of you are currently using SharePoint that integrates with something else, I'd love you to explain it a little bit to us so that we could hear more about it. But look at how it's got these different apps just showing in this screen capture. Help desk system, inventory management. Please, friends, don't try to start from scratch and create something complex. See if you can find the wheel already built and then tweak it to fit what you need in your company. You know, those templates and things are out there for a reason. So explore. Okay, so we will build lists and we'll do more on lists. Maybe let's go over and let's play a little bit now. Why don't we do it? I think we're ready. We've covered a lot of the points. Okay, so I'm on my SharePoint home. If you came in late, we get to SharePoint going to the app launcher. When we're logged into 365, we look for SharePoint. We can get to all the things here, but that's where we go. You've got a home. You've got my sites. It brings up a list. You've got news. It brings up recent news. You've got my files. You've got my lists, and you've got a new create button. So depending how you need to navigate, that's how you would get started. But this homepage shows you a lot of these things too. Remember I said that maybe you get some news and you don't have time to read it, but you don't want to lose track. You could click to bookmark. You see there's a little flag at the bottom of this news panel. When I clicked it, it saved it for later. So I'll get a list over there of the ones I'm following, things that have happened recently, stuff I've saved to read for later, and any future links, which I did link some stuff there too. Remember I said you can star. So if you see a site that you've been visiting, but you haven't starred it yet, you may want to click the star so you're following. Okay. Jumping in, let's go to create site. Okay, so team sites. Look, when I come in here, friends, I do have a handout. I'll make sure you get it. It's got clickable links to things I'm talking about with screen captures of my slides. But as you get in here, you've got learning sites on your SharePoint. You've got all your Microsoft has learning and training resources. So go explore those. Here you've got links to learn more about Teams and more about communication. So you can research those things that you're asking about as well. So the team is going to be a private space for a group. It does make a 365 group. You may have noticed those happening. And you can work on a project together. Now, I saw somebody asked about the shared email. I have such a great example for that. I was working with a client, and they were new to this environment. And we figured out she gets copies of all these, I don't know if it was an invoice or something, but she gets them over and over. She's not looking at them. She just got to keep them. And so what we did was we started with just a rule, making it go to a folder in Outlook, which was pretty helpful because there was a lot of them coming in. So we'd say the rule in Outlook would be, if I get an email from this source, put it in this folder. Well, then what we figured out is that the team really needed all those. So we don't want to go back and forth trying to get those messaged out to everybody. We set up a rule that if the email came in about those invoices, that it would forward the email to the team SharePoint site email address. You pick up what I'm putting down? All of those emails went straight to the SharePoint site and landed in a folder. They got saved as individual files right to SharePoint. That's the kind of magic that I think if you study what these products do, can you simplify some workflows that are making you crazy? So things like setting up rules, things that are really redundant, can you automate things like that? So that was a great use for the team site and having an email with it, because everyone within that would have access to that email. And then there's a communication site. This is when we're going to maybe make the training videos, maybe make the HR site, things like that, where we're going to put it together and publish it out so that a big audience can get to that information. Okay, so let's go ahead and play with one. Click. Okay, I'm going to the team site. So I've got some templates in here offering me some setups. Look how many good looking templates we've got. So shop around a little bit. You also, and this one, I talked to your IT people, and really, I'm going to refer you over and over back to your own IT. If you need IT, that's what Integris is here for, right? They can create some templates and put out here for you to use that are branded for your company. Okay, so mine's empty. I don't have one yet. Let's do an event planning. So I'm using the template. I'm going to click the event planning. I read a little bit about what it's set up to do. It's got a home page, additional pages, a list, all the things. So I could just start with this template. Let's go ahead and do one. Feel free to make one. I'm going to call this sample for Integris. Okay, you can add a little bit more to it, a description if you need to, and go ahead for next. You can make it private or public, however you need to do it. Get your language right and create your site. Okay. Let's see how this goes. Hope it doesn't take too long. Okay, I'll see what I can do with this. How did I find the create a team site icon? So at the top of my SharePoint window, I went to create new. Pretty sure new. Okay. Finish. Add members, finish. It's just me right now. Okay. Here it's building it. Now remember, this one was a template that already had a lot of things built. Wow. Okay. It came in really with a lot of things already happening. Look at how it's giving me next steps on things that I could do to kind of keep me on track. I'm going to close the next steps for the moment. And that was showing up in that little megaphone up there. So I'm going to turn that off for now, but I could come back to it. Look how the pieces are coming together. We've got the pages over here on the left. Let's just start. Let's play with the home a little bit. Look how they've set it up. They've got an about page. They've got the calendar, which kicks me over to Outlook. It's already integrated the calendar. It's already set up the email address. So all that's coming together from here. But let's focus on the site for now. Let's stay in the home for a few minutes. Okay, so there's the new. Remember I said it would have a drop down of all those different pieces that we could do. You've got a gear there, which you know is going to be settings kind of stuff. So page details. This gets you a little bit under the hood about this particular site. Okay, properties and description, any of that. Okay, I can close that page details, get back out here. It's got analytics there as well. Depends the size of your screen. You might be able to see it. Published, sharing. Let's do the edit. Clicking on the edit. Now this is getting me inside this web page, this intranet. You know, Internet is external, everybody, the web. Intranet is internal to your organization. So just walking you through here, there are little plus signs dividing each area. That's called a section, and you can add new sections by just kind of hovering over these plus signs. And then you'll see different sections. You can click on a section. This one's already filled out because I used the template. And here I'm getting the options, moving it, editing it, copying or duplicating this part, trashing it. I can rearrange the tiles in here, and I can set up what the section, this particular section looks like. This one is one with the two beside it. So I can go two tiles, just do a side by side. See how you can change the look of it, and then you've got the different components to work with. Now, as you begin modifying those, let's pick one of them. I isolate again. So I'm within a section. Within that section, I can click on one of those pieces or building blocks in it. And here I can now come in and edit or move it or set a focal point of a picture, zooming in and out. Let's click the edit of this picture. Okay. So one thing with a picture, even though it's a picture, I might link it to a web page, one of my web pages, one of your company's web pages. So remember that you can set those up, and here under the hood of it, in the editing detail, I can change the link. Okay. Do I want to show the little title? Here's a title out to the side. Sample for webinar. So that's a title. Do I want to show it or not show it? It's an on and off switch there in that little section. Maybe I want to change the background of it. You see how I'm going through these? Each little part of the site is editable. Change. Let's go out. Let's look at some stock images. And we will simply pick one that appeals. How about a nice little sunset there? And there it is. Okay. And then you've got options down there. You can add a call to action. That's like adding a little button to a site. You can put some text there. Call us or register now. And then you could turn that on and put a link there. So very, very customizable. Very customizable. Now, right now, even if this site was published, this is not going out to everybody as I work on it. It's saving in the draft mode as I'm working on it. When I'm good to go for the world to see, then I click that republish. Okay, let's add a section or roll down and see some other sections. See that divider for each section. This one is picking up an event calendar. We've got a countdown. That's a fun one to add to any kind of event you have. Here's a document library. So you will add a section. Let's go ahead and pick one. Clicking the section. Maybe I'll do a 2-column section. And then within that 2-column section, there, maybe I'll add a little background to it. Okay. And once I have that, then I can begin editing how that looks. Adding a section, adding a section. And I didn't show you, but you can also grab these. There's a 4-way arrow, and you can drop them in different places. I don't think I got it dropped quite right. Where did I drop it? I dropped it down here. Be careful. I'm wild with the mouse. Okay, does that give you a good idea kind of how that looks in the building piece of it? You could save it as a draft, or you could republish if you are ready to, and republish. Okay, if it had members and things in there. Okay, there we go. So that's how you really start building, and there's the whole page. That's how you start building it in here. Okay. Let's go do a list, because I think some of you were really interested in what the list looks like. Now, I think they have one in here, but let me just add one, new from scratch, so you can see. Okay, so you can create a list that's already set up, and we mentioned doing something like that. Maybe we just go ahead and do one of these so you can see it, and then I'll go back and make a blank one. So let's do the issue tracker just for fun. Now remember, this is when I was talking about the access piece. So you've got columns that are a field of a different type, like a text or a date or something, and each row becomes a record. Issue tracker, Integris. We needed a list today just for our questions. Okay, so this is coming up. Our list is integrated right into our SharePoint site. And see there, it's got the issue. That's the first category, the description. We've got a priority and a status. And what you do is add list items. So if you're all working this together, sample, and you could go through and click hi, all the things that you need to assign to Dawn. There we go. And all the things, the date, all the things. So you'll start to build this. It's even putting date pickers, which I love that for forms. And let's say it's today. Anyway, without putting anything else there, there's our first row. So this becomes a really interactive list. Each column is a field, each row is a record, and you could gather records. And then you begin doing the things that you sort and filter and group and all the things you need to do. Okay. Let me come back home and let's play with that again just from the start, just so you can see just a tiny sample of it. New list. And I see the time. We planned a little over an hour, so I'll get to your questions here. So we'll do another sample and create. So this one will be a blank one. So when you start a blank list, then you have to decide what kind of fields do you want, what columns, and you go in and you add a column and you decide what kind it is. That's what really reminds me of access. So let's do a date and next. Okay, and we'll call it date received. Received. Okay, so save. You get all your options for each of those. Okay. Okay, let's jump back out and kind of wrap up the conversation, and we'll start taking those questions. Okay, so managing your list. Once you build that list, it has a lot of possibilities. Do you need a nice form with it? If you get a response that's one thing, do you need to trigger that to automate something to do something else? many potential things are happening. And you know, with all these AI tools rolling out for us, that's the first time I've said AI today. You can actually start using these tools to bring some of these elements together and get the AI tool. Microsoft's is called Copilot. So I'm still learning. I know you are as well. So a little bit more on lists, kind of some of those things, what they look like as we were building it. So let's talk about, yes, you can bring in a CSV file. Yes. What kind of integrations? I just listed out some ideas. You can add documents into your pages. Connect apps into your SharePoint sites. Add those libraries, those lists, those specialty pages. Okay. Connect your SharePoint into your Teams. Right? If you've set up a SharePoint document library, could you go over to Teams and click the plus sign on the top and connect that SharePoint library? Yes. You could do all those things. The forms, the planner, many potential things here. I wrote down a couple other. So with your team site, you do get an email address, and that we can connect things and do things like rules from Outlook. That would be a great thing to do. Should I jump over to a team? Let me do it for you. Just I know you need the visuals, right? So if we go here and we go to Teams, I'll just open one I've got and we'll play. Slowly but surely. Okay, I'll have to go look and see exactly where we get those links. So for the calendar, like on that template, it had the calendar embedded as a page, Lindsay. So if you use a template, you may see it right there. All right, so let's go to a team. I probably have a sample one already here somewhere. So what I'm saying is that you could click a tab here and add, connect over, looking for SharePoint. You with me? You click that plus on the top, click SharePoint, and this is where you could connect those pieces directly into a team. If you had a team already built, or see how it's got recommended, it'll have different pages from this. It's going to a specific one. This one's already connected to a list, to a document library. So again, these are the kind of things you'll look for in your own organization, how you all need to set them up, decide what that's going to look like, and start building them. Okay, a couple last thoughts there. I think I put a lot on you, haven't I? And you're bringing a lot back to me. I hope I can answer you. I added a slide in here about how do they get connected. So when you create a new team from scratch, it does make a SharePoint site that's already connected. You can have a Microsoft 365 group and then add a team onto that. You could also add a new team to a site that you've got created, and like a communication site, then you could add a team to that. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes here. You'll want to test it. You want to talk with your IT folks. You'll have to decide how it's going to look for you. But you've gotten a lot of great ideas today, haven't you? Okay, Integris, Carl, are you with me?
I am right here. I am right here. There was a great comment in the chat about how this was like drinking water from a fire hose. I have to agree. There is a lot going on here. But we've
Well,
got
I tried to simplify it, but there's so much happening. It is hard to simplify.
Yeah, I agree. So we've got 22 questions. Some of them might be answered.
Okay.
But you can see them as well, I think, if you check or click on the starred list.
Oh, I do see that. Okay,
that way you can follow along with me. So Cheryl Roberts, first question. If we have a local server we use for our files, why would we use SharePoint, and would it increase our storage charges?
Okay. So this kind of an IT question
Yeah.
for you, but a lot of folks have changed over from those local servers and storing files now in the cloud, which gives people more on the go kind of access. Anywhere they can get on the internet, they can get to those cloud files, which is very handy for a lot of business operations.
Yeah, that's the type of question that I would ask your service provider, or if you are an Integris customer, your VCIO. That would be a good question for them.
Yeah.
So I think you've answered this one as well. This was from Renee Ferguson. Question: what is the difference between a Teams page and a communications page? I believe you've gone into that. Do you want to give them a quick run through
Just
again?
a Teams page is for your group, your private group working together, project-based kind of things, and a communications page is to broadcast out to a large audience.
Okay. Next question from Selena Laney. So an intranet would be a communication site?
Yeah, these are basically, I would call them all really intranet sites. They're all internal to your company, and not published outside of your company. Although I do believe you can add external people to share a SharePoint site externally, but you would set that up in the permissions.
I think that is a question that somebody asked a little later on. So the next question from Linnea Malmstrom, building an HR site for information. So sounds like a comp site, but also want a shared calendar. Can you have that with a comp site?
Yeah, I think the calendar comes with the team site. So again, not completely positive on that. But let me just write that down, because maybe I can double check it and follow up. I can always email you, reach out to me, and we'll follow up on that conversation.
Okay. Next question from Andrea Benitez. I think that you've answered this, but we'll go through them all. Is an intranet needed if a communication site can be built with SharePoint? I mean, isn't that sort of the SharePoint is the intranet?
Yeah, the SharePoint site is an intranet site.
Right. Okay, so next question from Judy Lee. Is there a practical difference benefit between using Teams versus SharePoint? I know SharePoint drives Teams, but our org is a heavy Teams user.
So the Teams piece to me is really the communication piece, where you're doing the instant messaging and collaborating on the files and what have you. But the SharePoint is kind of those web page pieces behind the team. So it gives you a web page for the event, for the marketing materials, for the training videos, all those things.
Okay. Next question from Shelia Dismore. Is a Teams site in MS Teams and Channels app the same as a SharePoint? A bit confusing to understand. So is it created in SharePoint and then shows up there, or is it a different program?
So I think the language is confusing, and Microsoft does this on a few things, like a form is a poll and a poll is a form. So I feel like it's a little bit like that here too. A team site is working together in a group, and you can add an actual team to the team site, but it's just giving you the opportunity to choose either the private group or the broadcast communication site.
Okay.
It's an overlap of the language.
Makes sense. Another question from Cheryl Roberts. Can SharePoint be used instead of Dropbox to share large files to clients?
Yes, I believe so. That would be something I would talk to IT about. What's going to be the best method for sharing files, and if you need encryption and security and those kind of things, you might need to kind of work through what you really need for your organization.
Okay. A question from Patricia Scroll. I'm going to butcher your last name. I apologize for that. Can guests or visitors able to upload a document that we may need from them?
Okay, that would be a good question for your IT, like what kind of permissions external people have on your SharePoint sites. They may have that pretty locked down, and they may need to go in on the admin side of things to expand permissions if you need that to happen that way.
Okay. Next question from Noor Awad. What is the purpose of the group email address when creating the site?
Well, it allows everybody on the site to get notification of an email coming into the whole group. So rather than an email coming to each individual, it's emailing the group. And so every individual has the ability to see it from within the team. It comes in, like, I believe, in the news feed area on the site.
All right. Another question from Tammy Jo Baltazar. My org IT group uses Confluence for documentation. Is there a good way to connect Confluence sites with SharePoint sites? I feel like that's probably another integration question that you should be asking your IT department.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Confluence, but I'm guessing it's something that you could link to directly from your site. If it's another cloud-based program, that's definitely worth asking the questions.
Yep. Next question from Teresa LaChapelle. How did you find the create a team site icon?
That was at the top of the page when I was on a SharePoint home. Let me bring that back up. And here, and if I was on home, the way I got started, well, that's actually a site. The way I got started was create site. There's create site, and you can create a news post. But create site is where I got to that gave me the Teams or the communication site starting place.
Okay. A question from Michelle Levine. Can you please add an email address to the sample team site if you're going to create one here to show us?
Let's see where that is. Okay, back to it. Okay, so let's see. Email notification settings. Replies to your page. So these are settings behind the scenes for all of my SharePoint. Let's see, on the actual site that I just made. Okay. Copy link to the page. I do not remember where it is. Share page. Let's see what we get in here, if it actually has maybe it's in page details. I'll find it. It's here somewhere. I teach too many programs. My brain scrambles.
You're doing a great job, Dawn. Don't sell yourself short.
Oh, well, whoops. I kept clicking.
We'll find it, though.
Don't overclick.
We'll go to the next question, and I answered this in the chat.
Okay.
You know, Patricia says, if we were having Integris create the SharePoint site for our company, can we as employees create our own sites at a private level if it's admin controlled? That's going to be a principle of least privilege issue, and it's something that you're going to have to talk to about with your VCIO and the IT partners that are setting that type of thing up. You might have to request that a site be set up. I mean, there's a lot of questions there that you're going to have to ask.
Yeah. It's
Your,
going to be
your
very
subject matter
company
experts.
dependent on those kind of things.
Right. Okay, so question from Diana Grant. How do you get the menu on the left side to display?
Are you seeing kind of a collapsed version here? You're not seeing
Possible.
this piece?
I don't know if Diana is still here to answer that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. That does happen. But the follow-up question is, maybe that is just available before you publish the page. So without the context, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But we'll move on and we'll answer that question if we can after the fact. Ashley Counts Jenkins, can non-365 users have access to a SharePoint area? I believe that Dawn mentioned that a little bit, that you can have non-organization users there, but they've got to be
but
invited.
it may depend on the IT admin settings behind the scenes that you might not have access to. For external, a lot of times, like I join a Teams meeting as an external person to do some training, and I can't upload files. So that usually external people have a lot of limitations, and it's set at a high level behind the scenes.
Right, and that makes a load of sense considering everything that would be put on those sites. That's
right.
Valuable.
Very secure. We want to keep them very secure. Yeah.
Exactly. So Nor had another question. How do I delete my test site?
Oh, okay. Let me see if there's an easy way to do it there, but right offhand, I do not know exactly how to do that. I really should, because I've got a lot of test ones to take out.
Okay. Well, maybe that's something we can work on so that we can get a response to Nor after the fact.
Okay.
Jacqueline Volpe.
I'm writing down these that I don't know, and I'll make a little summary to get to Carl, so that we'll try to get these all answered, and then when we link the content later, we'll have these in the description.
Right. So Jacqueline Volpe asked, can you import a list via a CSV file? And I believe you answered and you said yes. I don't know. Is that something easy that we can demonstrate?
Sure, I can. So when you are in a site, let's get out of the republish there. Republish. When you are making your SharePoint list, so you're going new and list, one of the options at the top is to import from a CSV file or Excel or another source.
Awesome. Lindsay Carey asked, question, where can you find and link Outlook, email, and calendar?
Yeah, so the site that we created had a calendar built in. So when I clicked this team calendar, it popped over to my Outlook, and it's adding another calendar option. We'll pop over, but it's going to bring up all the things. live training. Here we go. So there, it's popping right into my calendars down here. So see down at the bottom left corner here, groups, sample for Integris. That's the calendar.
Okay.
And that makes me think too, my brain's clicking a little bit. from your Outlook, you should be able to type that group email address from there. So it's the group email address I think would show up. So if I type sample for Integris, from there, I think it would bring up that email address.
Okay. Question from Lindsay Carey. Oh, no, excuse me. We just did that one. Question from Len Larson. How can I connect the Planner app in a team site to a list in SharePoint?
Okay, Planner app from a team site list in SharePoint. Okay, so from Planner, it has an option. You can connect that. You can add. You get a link for it, so you could link it to a SharePoint with one of those options where you just add in a link. You could also download what you have on Planner and bring that into a list. It might even from other source. Now that I'm thinking of that, it might even allow you to, if you go back here, new list, I wonder if you can, if from your existing list, if you can get it from a plan. Does not look like it here, but that may be a potential. I have not noticed from Planner where you can link straight to SharePoint. I know you can take it to Outlook, and you could put it in a channel tab on your team, and you can put the Planner on the navigation in your team.
Okay. And the last question that I starred before we moved over to this list is from Anita Buchanan. Is there a desktop version of SharePoint like there is for Outlook?
It's all cloud-based that I understand. So you log into the account to get to it.
I wonder if there's a web app, but that would still be cloud-based, and it would just be
still cloud, yeah.
Yeah, a fancy version of a Chromium tab that would give you a shortcut, but it's not truly a desktop version.
Yeah,
it's just an easy way to access the cloud. So let's see what else we have for questions. If Dawn, if you're willing to.
I got time for you, Carl. I just don't know if I know all the answers.
Yep. So, oh my gosh, there's so many, and they're still adding them. I say that we're going to save these questions for offline, and we'll get back to you. I feel like maybe we should do a follow-up session for SharePoint if people are interested.
Yeah. We need a deeper dive, apparently.
I guess we do. Maybe we can set something up where people can submit questions to us in advance, and then we can do a work session with them. But we will get them to you. So otherwise, though, I think that we are at the end of our time, and I'm going to give Dawn the last word, and we'll wrap things up.
Well, I appreciate you all. I always do. I'm so glad you're here today. Reach out, stay in touch. I'm going to pop my link tree in the chat, and I welcome you to connect on LinkedIn if we're not already, and enjoy other trainings that I've got coming up. So thank you, Integris. I appreciate you very much.
Oh, we appreciate you too, Dawn. And to let everybody know, we do have 2 more sessions with Dawn coming up in early November and early December. And we will get that out to everyone when we can. So thank you, everybody.